Let's all rise and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To
to
the
the
flag
of the United
United
States
States
of America,
and
and
to the republic
for
for
which
which
it
it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
liberty,
and justice
justice
for all.
for all.
Wanted to send out our condolences to the Ricky family. They attended the second funeral in the last month. Tony lost both his parents to COVID-19. So our thoughts and prayers are with the Ricky family right now. Approval of minutes, monthly town board meeting of April 2nd, 2020.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Monthly town board meeting of May 7th, 2020.
So moved.
Second,
second,
all in favor?
Aye.
And I vote aye. Committee reports, Conservation Board.
Okay, the Conservation Board met on Zoom on May 12th. First was the Choi. It was a long meeting. Choi 12 Hudson River Lane. This is an ongoing issue regarding the docks. The DC permits were received finally. They were forwarded to the Natural Resource Officer and the board chair. Also, the Army Corps of Engineers permit is pending based on the fee being submitted. The CB had some concerns on a water drainage issue and rectified it by filling in gravel. The permits will be approved based on the above permits being issued. On the second application was Riverview Industries, Route 9, 3012 Route 9. A site visit took place. Of course, the COVID safety plan was followed. Discussed a parking perimeter adjacent to the property. This is a property that had a wetlands infraction in the rear. There's also south side wetlands existing on the property. What's going to be called for here, and a lot of discussion went on during the meeting regarding restoration plans for site wetlands. The CB is also going to have to review the site plan, and obviously we'll await additional information from the applicant, who is also before the planning board for interface process. The next application was Scott Johnson. This is Mountain Bank Drive. The applicant here, we've discussed this one in the past. This is a difficult property for access. The access road itself would require a curtain drain, would also involve crossing over an intermittent stream. There was on the visit to the property to notice that the adjacent property, which is owned by Scenic Hudson, has a roadway that, if they would allow it, would avoid a lot of intrusion into this property that would cause a lot of problems. So that discussion is going on between Michelle Smith and the applicants. If that gets to work out, everybody would be very happy with that, because we had also discussed the septics and the plans for that. While they're not in the wetland buffer, they would cause some issues regarding a discharge pipe, which would be close to the buffer itself. The discussion, obviously, with Scenic Hudson would possibly involve a conservation easement. Moving on, the next applicant was Garrison Fish and Game Pond, 183 South Highland Road. This basically deals with a herbicide, a partial herbicide into the actual pond itself. This would allow for shoreline fishing and docking and launching of boats. There was a lot of discussion. We have one member on our board who's actually a scientist that deals with this, and there was a back and forth discussion regarding the benefits of continual carp usage, which was not recommended, or the herbicides themselves. They thought there might be a necessity for a chronological report that deals with the actual pond itself, but the fact that it was a very limited scope feels that they don't really need that. The applicant is very experienced with dealing with water shield. They did get an estimate from Aqua Dredging, but it's very expensive. It's between $150,000 and $200,000, so not something you want to do easily. And they did discuss also what's called an Article 15 or an Article 24, which gets involved with 1 year or 2 year permits. Obviously, they did apply to the DEC, and those permits were issued. And obviously, the treatment itself, process itself, would take about 6 to 8 weeks if approved to go forward with it. So there'll be some more ongoing discussions, but there was a very good discussion overall on that project. The natural resource officer gave just an update to the conservation board about Manitou Marsh. A scientist submitted a report to him, preliminary, just to discuss the possibilities of collecting core samples from the actual marsh itself. This would all be done by hand. There's no large machinery involved. That would be between them and their students themselves. They would, of course, be taking a look at being able to study the climate, the wetlands area, and the sea bank. That issue, of course, was advised that it would have to go before the town board for discussion. There happened to be also, when the resource officer took a look at the actual locations, there was, in fact, one location that was off of the property on adjacent property, and he would advise them of that. So that was just an internal discussion. There was no person representing them at that meeting. And then also the Cloud Bank 162 Cloud Bank Road. This is a Class B dam, a water body. The Cloud Bank Pond is a Class B stream, flows to pond, and then goes over the dam, and then back to the Hudson. The dam is safe by engineering reports, but they want the sediment removed that's located behind the dam itself. They want to bring back the depth levels back to the 1900 level. They would use hydraulic cutters. What they want to do with the material when it's removed is move it to a middle location in the property, a more meadow area, where the sediment there would only rise the property grade by 6 to 8 inches. They would also plant seed in that area. They applied for the DEC and the Army Corps of Engineers. And the work also would not affect any animals in the pond, because the work would be done in a very minor, easy manner, such that the animals would notice the disturbance and move to the other side. And obviously the CB wanted to also make note that they would be removing a lot of sediment. So they're planning on doing a site visit in the near future. And that's it. That's the meeting. Their next meeting will be June 9th.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay.
Recreation.
Good evening. The Recreation Commission did have a Zoom meeting in May, and the commission discussed the possibility that we would not have a summer camp this year. And it's sad to say that many families have now received a letter from Amber Stickle announcing and confirming that there will not be summer camp, which was a heartbreaking decision. I know how families feel, since my daughter spent most of her summers at the rec while I worked. But I know that Amber is working on some virtual programming for families. So that will be, extremely helpful for families to engage with children, as they are doing now. The rec also discussed an agreement with New Leaf, a not-for-profit that proposed a community garden for Philipstown. And there will be more on New Leaf later in the meeting, but we're very excited about this development for our community. And we look forward to working with New Leaf. The commission is also working on programming for the fall, and the race for the castle race that is usually every fall is going to be scheduled again for October, and we're hopeful that that will take place. The race for all of the runners that want to participate, children and adults. And volunteers, we need volunteers. So we will have more on that at the next meeting.
Thank you, Judy. The Philipstown Hub.
The Philipstown Hub has been working virtually in meetings with middle schoolers and others. And during this difficult time, we know that this community resource is of great value. And we thank the Philipstown Hub wants to thank all of the donors who have supported it during this time. The hub has an exciting event planned from June 15th through July 15th. It's going to be a virtual marathon, and you can sign up by going to philipstownhub.org. It will be a fundraiser, and it will be done virtually to raise funds for the hub and to support the community.
Right.
Also, Dan, if anyone would like to contact Danielle Pack McCarthy, you can reach her at danielle@philipstownhub.org.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Planning board.
Okay, the planning board did meet via Zoom on May 21st. First of all, I'd like to wish Neil Zuckerman good recovery. He got bit by a snake, and hopefully he's going to be okay, unfortunately. But we did have a full agenda. Meeting was a little over an hour. First thing on the agenda was a return to escrows. I'm sorry. First thing was a couple of correspondence from Graymore. As I reported last month, they did put additional cell tower on the water tower up there. They just want to let us know that they're moving forward with that, and it's almost completed. We also got a correspondence from Joe Pillow Lombardo from 19 Stone Ledge Road up in he did a lot subdivision, and that he just wanted to let us know that was completed as well. That was a lot line adjustment that was approved back in like January of this past year. Next thing on the agenda was return to escrow of James and Christine Conley at 51 Route 403. That's the house that we just built up there right past the new deli up there. It's a good sized house. So they did approve the escrow return. Glenn Ferdisco at 385 Indian Brook Road in Garrison, New York. There was a lot of discussion about this, and they tabled this for currently until next month because they're not 100% sure if all the landscaping that was on the plan has been completed. They're going to go take a look at that and see if it was completed. If it is so, they'll return it next week at next month's meeting. On the other agenda, Claudio Mazzolo's son, he was been on the agenda for last few months. Unfortunately, this should have been approved back in March, but March was the first month we did not have a meeting because of the COVID. So anyway, moving forward, everything was approved at this past meeting. He's just building a 1,800 square foot house, as I indicated the last few months. So everything was in order, everything got voted, and everybody approved it. Other items on the agenda was been on in the past few months as well as CSR International Self-Storage. As we know, it's not a self-storage unit anymore. This is going to be a warehouse office space. It's going to be 21,000 square foot building, 14,000 square warehouse, and 7,000 square feet of office space. They did not present any official documents at all at this meeting, since it's the first time we met in 2 months. They didn't have nothing official, but they did go over the plan. They showed the pictures of the building. It's a very nice building. They had a one-way drive-through for the trucks. There's enough parking space for 4 to 5 tractor trailers. So it's going to eliminate the problem they currently have on Jaycox Road and Route 9. So once this is up and running, it'll be a much better organizational than the problem we had there with those trucks backing in. Anyway, I like the building very nice. It had some solar panels on the top of it. It was a very nice looking building, and it's going to accommodate, I believe it's going to have about 20 or so workers there, about 8 people in the warehouse, or 8 or 9 people working in the office. There's enough parking places for 36 cars. The design to me was very nice. So they'll be giving us additional information at our next meeting that's official. Right now, it was all unofficial stuff that they showed us, but it was very nice that I saw. One other thing they're still concerned by the planning board about the entrance and exit and entrance way, especially the truck coming out, heading north on Route 9, making a turn going into southbound Route 9 traffic. So that's the major concern everyone currently has at this point. They did mention they are looking at possibly widening the entranceway. Right now, it's already 27 feet wide. They may be able to widen it a little bit, but we'll take it from there at the next meeting. The next thing on the agenda was the Magazzino, the museum. Back in January's meeting, they were looking at just do a lot line adjustment, but since January till this past meeting, things changed. They're right now looking at building a 3-story building south of the museum. That lot they just cleared up really nice. South of the museum now. They're looking at a 3-story building. It's going to be approximately 33 feet high. Again, everything they provided to us was unofficial. The pictures that they showed of the building was very nice as well. And I think next meeting we'll have some official documentation from them. So that meeting was closed at 9:10. The next meeting will be June 18th at 7:30 right now via Zoom unless things change. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Zoning,
The zoning, can you hear me?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. The zoning board met on May 11th via Zoom. There was a continuation of the public hearing for Jose Romeo in reference to a building permit issued for his neighbor at 529 Route 9D. There was lengthy discussion by the public as well as several attorneys involved in the appeal. It was determined by the ZBA that the period to appeal the permit had been exceeded, so the ZBA voted unanimously to reject Mr. Romeo's appeal. There will be no meeting of the ZBA in June. They have nothing for the agenda, so the next scheduled meeting would be July 11th.
Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Highway,
Highway, I have the highway report. Work performed by the Philipstown Highway Department. This is by Carl Fresenda, Highway Superintendent. And this is for the month of May. The Highway Department has called back all employees full-time. Now it's time to catch up. We are asking all residents to have patience while we get all our roads back into shape. We will then begin cutting brush and sweeping roads. A resolution was passed for a purchase for a new forklift, which is in the garage and a necessity, and we plan to auction off the old one at a future date. We are still planning on paving certain roads in July and August, and we'll begin prepping those roads so they will be ready. Phone calls to the Highway Department continue to be the light this month, and we appreciate that. It shows everyone is in this together. Roughly $8,554 was spent on vehicle maintenance and repairs for the month of May. Above report submitted by Carl Present, the Highway Superintendent.
all right. Thanks to Carl, thank you. I know they're definitely gonna be playing catch up.
Yep.
Building and land acquisition, we've been meeting at Town Hall. The Town Hall project's moving along pretty well. I was in there last night putting up some color samples on the walls. Got to meet with Susan English, who's a professional color consultant and painter tomorrow. She was the one who recommended the colors. We're going to okay them and then move ahead. The first floor, we're probably just going to go neutral, some off-white, something. Second floor for the big room, we want to add some color to it because we've done all that work and we do have some color on the ceiling already. So, but the new windows are going in. They look really, really good. I mean, John and I were in there looking at them. They're identical to the old windows. You cannot tell because when you first walk in, you don't notice that the new windows are in until you walk over and you see that we don't have gaping holes in the glass and things like that. So
And the plastic really
and the
makes
plastic.
sense.
I'm gonna miss the plastic. I don't know how they're gonna replicate that, but it'll really add to the overall performance of the building, the look of the building, the functionality of the building. We can actually open the windows, have screens for them, things like that. We did get some change orders that we're definitely gonna dispute this week. John and I looked at those, met with the architect. They also did a mock-up of the coins, the corners on the building that was as unsatisfactory as could be. So we've asked them to hold off on any exterior work until we have a meeting on site and get things back on track. But the inside is going well. We're wondering when the elevator's gonna come. We're expecting that very soon. But it looks like, from the appearance of things, we're looking at probably, late October, November to be back in. So with any luck, knock wood, we'll be in there. But it looks good. It's going to be a really dramatic change and really a change for the better. Having the elevator for the handicapped accessibility, having the old meeting room is reestablished, a new staircase that's actually code compliant. It's going to make for a much more pleasant work environment and a much more efficient town hall overall. So we're happy with that. It'll be good for another, 150 years, I hope.
If I could just comment on the exterior.
Yeah.
I met with Justin and a member of the public on, was it Monday at noon? The exterior, the shingle color was selected for the roof. So that's been moved on to PVS so they can get the shingles started on the roof, this tear off and everything else that needs to be involved. We also discussed some colors for the coins, the corners of the building and the exterior trim. The feeling at this point is to stay away from such a dramatic color like the green that's on there. It will probably end up being something lighter, a light gray is in the talks at this point. So it still has to be worked out, but the shingle was selected and we're working on an exterior color. The siding will be white, similar to the building department building.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard, I agree with you. I stopped by today and saw the sample of siding as well. I think they could do a little bit nicer, come up with better,
Oh, yeah.
better than what it is today, for sure.
That was the worst mock-up I've ever seen.
It wasn't very good.
It was
They
bad.
said they were gonna try to use caulking or so. I said that, I don't think
I
that's.
don't know what they were
Yeah.
shooting for, but
Yeah.
it didn't pass anybody's
Yeah,
smell
I
test.
do agree. Everything inside looks really good. It's gonna be a beautiful thing when it's all done.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be, we're everyone looking forward to it.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, and I understand, Tara, you were in there organizing your shelves and everything like that as far as the cabinetry and millwork that's going to be in your office?
Yes, I was in there Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, and went over with Greg, the countertops. Yeah, it's coming along really nice. It looks really good.
Yeah, and I think the assessors should be exceedingly happy because the assessor's office is going to be a much better situation. My office, I don't know about.
Stuck them in the back.
The stuff in the back corner, me and Ann will be back there.
Yeah.
Susan's
Now,
got the same room.
Normal, is that impacting at all the layout, the new, requirements at the state level or for social distancing?
As far as the project goes,
No.
No.
For the office space and the interior? No.
No, we haven't taken that into account. It's, it's not that big of a building. It looks big from the outside, but when you start breaking it up inside, it gets tight quick. So we don't have a lot of options in there.
Sure.
Especially since we're putting in, 2 new bathrooms on the first floor, plus the staircase, plus the elevator. We did eat up quite a bit of space there, but I think it's a great layout. I think it's fully
Me too.
functional. They took advantage of every square inch, obviously.
Great.
All right, cemetery committee.
Okay, Cemetery Committee, I sent out a detailed email rather than go up on Zoom. Basically, for soliciting responses, we did place the flags on the grave sites for Memorial Day. We have obviously began again with the stonemason safety plans, performed some minor grave stone repairs in the North Highlands Cemetery. So that's good that we were able to get some work done in regards to that. I had an inquiry from town people regarding the General Morris crypt. They wanted some more detail about it. They wanted to know if it ever had a roof, which it didn't. I went into detail about what Betty Butney had performed. Most people don't realize that when you look at it, that there's actually what's buried, but there's a staircase that goes down, and there's a whole series of crypts there. When you're standing on the top mound, those are all different crypt spots for people. One or two of them actually collapsed, so they couldn't be used, but provided them with a lot of detail that they were looking for. I noticed there's more people walking in the cemeteries. I guess that's because other areas have been closed. So it's good, and I didn't see anybody violating any of the rules for keeping their distances, so that worked out well as well. So our next meeting will be June 9th to discuss some further actions we want to take. That's it.
When I walk in the cemetery, I always feel like I'm visiting my future neighbors. All right, thanks, Mike. Putnam County Legislator.
Hi there. Thanks for recognizing me. I won't take up too much time. I'm not going to read off from the state website. I'm sure you guys are aware of the details and statistics and what's happening on the state level. We're well into phase 1, preparing for reopening in phase 2, encouraging businesses to prepare for phase 2, because hopefully we'll be able to open up those businesses soon. And again, I'd like to just express, if any businesses need assistance in getting information regarding reopening, please reach out to me, nancy.montgomery@putnamcountyny.gov. There's wonderful resources on the state website. There's a great toolkit so you can look up the type of business you are. And I don't know, I hear a lot of people complaining that it's all unclear, but the resources that I'm seeing are pretty clear. And when I can't get clarity, I just ask. So Dylan Mayoshi, the state representative, is always available to answer my questions and give any clarification. And hopefully you guys on the town level have what you need as far as clarity. If you need anything resolved, please let me know if I can get those answers for you. Philipstown has done a great job in partnering with me in Putnam County District 1, and I really appreciate everything you've done for the residents of Philipstown. You're a great example for the rest of the county and communication. You guys are on the update calls with the health department. I'm still not, although they've added, tourism is on, economic development is on. I think Veterans Council is on. So your representative still isn't on those calls, but if you need anything, maybe I can get it for you. We are now working from an austerity budget as of March 23rd. Sales tax revenue is down 1.1 million for the month of March. That's 24%. We expect further losses to come. We are getting ready for state aid cuts. As you probably are aware of, from 20 to 50%, we're going to find in state aid cuts, and we still don't know what kind of aid we're going to get from the federal government to offset any of that. So that's where we are with working from our county budget. I just really hope for the county employees and want to make sure that we are able to keep everybody that is working really hard to keep government running and provide services, much needed services for the people of Putnam. What else can I tell you? Because of what's happening around the world, Putnam has come out very peacefully. I'm so proud of the people that have come out in their very peaceful vigils. I attended one yesterday on the county courthouse. It's just horrific what we see happening in the country. And it's wonderful to have our partners in law enforcement come out and express the need for peace and reform as well. I think our Sheriff Langley is on this meeting tonight too, so it's great to see him here, and it's great to have him as a partner for peace throughout the county. And I just want to tell everybody, please, please, please fill out your ballot for the school board vote. Fill it out now. I think it's due June 9th. Also, your absentee ballot for the primary election is due. And if you haven't filled out your census form yet, that's really important, especially as your local government is facing all kinds of cuts and revenue losses. We're going to need to count every single person we can so that we can get the services and fundings for the services we need. Do you guys have any questions for me? Do you want to talk about the fish I caught today?
No, I don't, Nancy. I'm mad at you. One thing I would like to say is Nancy raised a great point. I have my ballot for the school board, the school budget right here. I second that. People really do need to fill these out, get them in. It's just an opportunity for everybody to participate in democracy. So please avail yourself to that. It's going to be a tough year, and the school, the budget's going up, but when you consider the cuts they're facing and other things, they're still coming in under the cap. They still have to educate children. And, if the school budget doesn't pass, we're looking at a serious problem at Haldane. You're looking at layoffs and things like that. And I know it's a tough time for people. I understand that. It is really, really going to be a hard decision this year because the people who all of us have been affected by this as far as our income, but it's important to educate our children. So that's a really important thing. So Nancy, thanks for bringing that up. The other thing with the county budget, I just have to say I'm confounded after not having a deputy county executive for 3 years, why they would go ahead and hire someone who was already working for the county, had a job as the executive, as a deputy executive, because it's just not the time when you're probably going to have to sacrifice somebody, and that just could save a position. So I certainly don't support that decision right now to the tune of $111,000 a year. But
If you'd like me to comment, we did vote on that on Tuesday, and I was the only no vote. And these are difficult conversations. You can go to my Facebook page, Putnam County Matters, and listen to the actual conversation. I'll say no more. But, after listening to that meeting again and thinking about this for a really long time, and, I go outside of the county a lot. I do a lot of studying of what other counties are doing and other local municipalities are doing. And we're a tiny county. We don't need this. We don't need all this government. And I will plainly say that. We do not need this expansive executive government, high-paid top officials that we have. We need support of our sheriff's department. We need support of our health department, our social service department, all the departments, sorry to leave any out. There's none that should be left out that serve the people. And those government employees that are, making low salaries, in my mind, deserve a lot more support than what they're getting. And I don't see that it's going to be fixed anywhere from the executive branch. In fact, it's being hindered in the cuts that I see in the health department, the battles that the sheriff department finds in just getting a contract, all of it. I think that I can look at this with some experience now and honestly say we do not need all of this. So it will be $116,000 on top of what other amenities this position comes with, a car, who knows what else. We seem to give our top paid executives extra stipends too in salaries. And I don't, who knows if that will come, but we seem to do that quite often as well. My main concern is just the job description. I don't know that the person that's been hired, who was actually doing the role before he was actually approved by the legislature, which I find bizarre too. There is a job description that is a legal document, I believe, within the county. It needs to be set forth and approved. And I have no proof that this person meets that job description either. Nothing disrespectful to this individual. I don't know him well. I know that there was the project at Butterfield. I believe he was the project manager at Butterfield. I believe that project itself ran into one cost overrun after another. The fact that stands out for me, and I'm sorry to go on with this and I'll stop in a minute, that there was a $300,000 kitchen approved in this facility, knowing full well not one meal would ever be fully cooked there for the seniors. We can't even use silverware and put it in this $300,000 kitchen. They're still using plastic. So I don't see that this position being filled for the sake of economics
makes
any sense. And that's all I'll say.
No, I agree wholeheartedly. It doesn't.
I didn't intend to go on like that, but
That's
you
gotta be a nice kitchen, though. I wish that we don't have the perks here that they have over there for our top executive.
Do you need a ride to work, by the way?
I'll take my bike.
Thanks. We appreciate your leadership. The question is, the legislature going to vote ever on the Human Rights Commission, given all that's going on and the horrific things on? We need more of a discussion in our county, and the Human Rights Commission would be a timely entity.
Thank you so much for bringing that up. We presented it in January. I requested that it be put forward twice, or maybe once. I requested that it be put forward on the Rules Committee agenda and was ignored by Legislator Sullivan. And I've requested again, I sent that memo out at the beginning of this week to request that it be placed on the June Rules Committee agenda, and I still have not received an answer. So we need to push it forward. We need to have these conversations. I think it's really important. I'm having some really heartfelt conversations with people in the community. We have different views. We have different ideas about what should be happening. They're really hard conversations. It's heartbreaking to have these conversations with my friends and family, and we don't always agree, but it's fantastic because we're having the conversation, and we need to have this through a Human Rights Commission, mediating, supporting, opening up these conversations.
All right, thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, and just so you know, Sheriff is on the meeting, and I just want to say thanks again for coming out and being such a great supporter of peace in our county.
All right, let's move on to the agenda.
The first, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. The first item is a resolution supporting the Emergency First Responders Privacy and Protection Act. It's a roll call vote.
All right, Bob, you were the one who presented this.
Yes, I did. This Corey Lyons brought this up to us, and I think a February meeting. We discussed it. We brought it over to our attorney. He looked at it and he said it was a good thing to do. So I'm presenting this as a resolution. I think it's a good thing for all our emergency responders.
All right, that being the case, would you like to make the motion on this resolution?
So moved.
This is a roll call.
Yes.
Councilman Farrell,
Second,
Councilman Van Tassel,
I vote aye.
Councilman Leonard,
I vote aye.
Councilman Flaherty,
Aye.
and I vote aye. The motion carries. Thanks for getting that, Bob.
No problem. Happy to do it.
The next item is a resolution adopting the Philipstown Fleet Efficiency Policy. This is also a roll call vote.
This is another addition to our effort as a climate smart community. And just make a commitment to trying to have an efficient fleet of vehicles as we go along, keeping that in mind when we purchase new vehicles and things like that. It has come from Roberto Muller, who's heading up that action for us. So I fully support the resolution here. There's no downside to it for us. And we really appreciate Roberto's efforts. So with that, if I could get a motion on that resolution, this will be a roll call.
So moved.
All right, Councilman Van Tassel,
I vote aye.
Councilman Leonard,
Mike, you're muted.
Mike,
Aye. It came up. I don't know. Sorry.
Councilman
touching it.
Flaherty,
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell,
aye.
and I vote aye. Motion carries. Our thanks to Roberto Muller for all his work on our behalf and everyone's behalf here.
The next item on the agenda is a resolution introducing proposed local law number 1 for 2020 entitled the Town of Philipstown Temporary Moratorium on New Land Use Development on Properties Located on Upland Drive and Ridge Road and setting a public hearing for such. And this is also a roll call vote.
Before we move to that, Mike, would it make sense to include Cliffside Court in that?
Yes, because the whole idea of the entire area is the main artery going in there, and that's Upland. So anything off of Upland that's supported by that has to be, yes.
Right. So I would move that we add Cliffside Court to this notice and then vote on it. So because there's no harm, and I talked to the attorney, so look, you can just add it on. So if we vote on it, we can get the law amended and put it out as including Cliffside Court. And since Cliffside comes off of Upland, it does make sense. So I just wanted to make sure you concurred with that, Mike.
Yeah, yes.
All right, so it's going to be resolution introducing proposed law number 1, 2020, Town of Philipstown temporary moratorium, a new land use development on properties located on Upland Drive, Ridge Road, and Cliffside Court, and setting a public hearing for such. So what date would we like to, the public hearing, what does it have to be, 60 days, is it, or is it 30?
Ooh, I'd have to double check. I think it's 30.
Mhm.
I can double check with Steve.
Yeah. So let's just set up a 30-day hearing. I think it's 30 also.
Yeah.
And
Can we have a public hearing right now?
we could, yeah, we could do a Zoom public hearing, have people on.
Okay, all right, as long as we can do it with Zoom, that's fine.
Thing, yeah. So, Tara, do you have a calendar there?
Yeah, so our next meeting as of right now is scheduled for July 2nd. I don't,
We can't have a meeting on my birthday.
Oh,
I think we should move it too, because that's my wife's birthday too.
It's also
oh.
so close to the 4th of July.
so the following Thursday would be July 9th. Now, you would like to hold the public hearing as part of the town board meeting as usual, or do you want us to?
Yeah, no, let's do it as part of the town board meeting.
Okay. So is July 9th?
July 9th is fine with me.
Yeah.
So we'll make a notice, we're changing the town board meeting date to July 9th and also having that public hearing that evening.
Okay.
And
Well-
Tara, could you get in touch with Steve tomorrow on the,
Yes.
I'm sure we're right, but also the inclusion of Cliffside Court on this.
Yep.
All right, so with that, I would entertain a resolution on this local law and the public hearing date.
Rick,
Second,
hey, Rick, there's people, oh, okay, sorry.
What's that, Mike?
There's people on I think on this, do you want to hear them or not? I think there's some people that attended. Do we need to hear them or not?
We could. Is there a way to get them on?
I think is anybody on that? I did receive some stuff. Yeah, obviously, I'm in communication with people.
Yes. I had informed anyone who wanted to speak to raise their hand. I do have one hand up right now. I can unmute her. Elizabeth, hold on one second. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. I just
you
wanted
just-
to ask,
Can
sorry,
you do me a favor and state your first and last name, just for the record?
yes, Elizabeth Coulombe, Coulombe.
Thank you.
And where can I read a full copy of what this law entails, so I know what it is?
The resolution and the law were part of the agenda for this evening's meeting, which can be
Oh,
found on the
I have the
website.
agenda. I didn't see it. Maybe I didn't go down far enough. Okay, thank you. And, okay, yeah, I didn't go down far enough. When it says a moratorium on new land use, my property is split. The lots are each, the 4 acres are split into 3 lots. And if I wanted to do something like build a shed on the lot my house is not on, would that be considered new property use if there's nothing currently on that lot?
I believe it would.
Okay. Okay, that was my, and so, but you could still do renovations and things to a house that is currently standing, just not a new structure.
Yes, to an existing residential property, you could do things like an addition, renovation, those things. But we're really, the impetus for the law is to give us time to figure out what we're going to do with a road that already has many issues and will be exacerbated by the introduction of new home sites on there. So we're that's what we're looking at.
Okay, thank you. Those were my 2 questions, was building a non-residential building on a lot attached to my residential lot, and then current residential building. So thank you. That's all.
Great, thank you.
Can we just, before we move on, that was a roll call vote, so can we just finish that vote? Thank you.
Yep, we're going to go back to that. Councilman Flaherty.
aye.
Councilman Leonard.
Aye.
Councilman Tassel.
Aye.
Councilwoman Farrell.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you. The motion carries.
The next item is a resolution approving the new leaf proposal for a community garden.
Okay, I had some online discussions with the town attorney today. The only concern that he has that hasn't been met would be an agreement, a license agreement between the town of Philipstown and New Leaf. They've already given us insurance. We have the go-ahead from OSI and Scenic Hudson. We've mapped out the spot where the garden will go. All the details are done. I don't think this has to be a lengthy agreement. but there should be something put on paper. So I said if he could put together a brief agreement saying that essentially they'll adhere to the easements that are on the property and they'll stay within the established area as surveyed by Beatty and Watson. Other than that, I'm sure he'll come up with something, but I don't want to spend a ton of time or money on this, especially right now. So
I have one question. Has the rec commission also on board fully with the
Yes.
current? They are. Okay.
Yes.
That's all.
yeah, Joel Conybear has been included in all the correspondence and all
Okay,
the
great. Thank you.
He's on the call here tonight.
Yes, and thank you to the Rec Commission and Joel and Tim
Absolutely.
for their time on this.
Yeah, it's an important thing to do right now, more important than it seemed before, but I think it'll be great once it gets up and running.
I agree.
So with that, could I get a motion on the resolution approving New Leaf?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Next is a resolution authorizing the return of escrow for James and Kristen Conley, and this is for the planning board, which is already approved.
Okay, if it's approved by the planning board, good enough for me. Could I get a motion on the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Next is a resolution authorizing Supervisor Shea to sign the letter of intent to participate in the Putnam County Jurisdictional On-Hazard Mitigation Plan Update Project.
So this is something we've signed on to in the past. It lays out what will happen in the county and in Philipstown in the event of certain emergencies, whether you're in a floodplain, whether you're in a fire-prone area, there are all sorts of things addressed in it. It benefits us greatly, so we're glad to be able to partner with the county on this. Greg's aware of it. Obviously, we had done this with Kevin Donahue in the past. He worked on the original one. So again, the update to that. So with that, I would entertain a motion on that resolution.
So moved.
Second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Thank you.
Next is a resolution authorizing the cancellation of in-person summer camp programs at the Philipstown Recreation Department for the 2020 summer season.
This is not something we do lightly. We did discuss this, and I discussed it with Amber at Rec and other supervisors in the county. We just don't feel like we can provide an absolutely safe experience, which is what you want when you're dealing with someone else's children. It's unfortunate that it's come to this. It's another burden due to COVID-19, but there's just no way around it. And it's a blow to us on a lot of levels. We like the summer camp. It provides a lot of employment for young people over summer. It takes, a burden off of parents who have to keep working. It gives kids this great opportunity. We have one of the best summer camps probably in the state. I mean, people from all other areas want to get into our camps. So it's a tremendous blow to us. But again, I just can't see us being able to run a summer camp with 70 kids in a gymnasium and our staff and do it safely. It's not possible. So
It's just unfortunate, really.
it is very unfortunate, but we'll be back. I mean, obviously we'll be back. It's, the summer camp is a big deal for every municipality, but especially here. So with that, I would entertain a motion on the resolution authorizing the cancellation of in-person summer camp in the town of Philipstown.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. My thanks to Amber for, providing a lot of guidance on this. We had a lot of consultation back and forth. And also I did consult with other supervisors, and we couldn't wait any longer for guidance from the state. And really people were just waiting to look for coverage. They didn't want to make up their own mind about it. People are looking to blame the state for everything, but we need to step up and take responsibility for our residents and our young people. So That's that.
The next item on the agenda is Jeff Mickelson would like to make a statement of support in regard to the board's consideration of the resolution in support of the New York State Health Act.
All right, Jeff, are you there?
Not seeing him.
There he is.
Oh,
Yes,
there we go.
yes, I am. Thank you
There you
very
are.
much for allowing me to speak tonight. My name is Jeff Michelson. I live in Cold Spring, and I requested to speak on the subject of the resolution that the town board is considering in support of the New York Health Act. And mostly I asked to address you so that I could answer any questions you might have. I watched your last meeting, and I know there was a request to know more about the bill before you vote on this. But I'd also, if possible, like to make a short statement on behalf of the resolution.
Please begin with that.
Great. So we all know that things are, have changed a lot in the past few months and continue to change on a daily basis. But it's important to remember that even before the pandemic, we were in a state of crisis with respect to our healthcare system in this country and in the state of New York. There were 1 million New Yorkers who had no insurance at all. There were millions more who were uninsured. There was a study done from 2017 to 2019, a comprehensive statewide study, thousands of people surveyed, and more than 50% of them reported having skipped or delayed treatment due to cost. And 75% of them reported having been uninsured at some point in their life. So that's most of us. I'm sure all of us know somebody or have been in that situation themselves. I have been. I'm a small business owner and a freelancer, and for the first many years of my career had no insurance. I don't know the stats for New York State specifically, but there have been estimates made for the nation that close to 45,000 people die every year because they don't have health insurance. It is the #1 cause of of bankruptcy. Medical bills are the #1 cause of bankruptcy in this country. And despite all of that, we still pay twice as much as anyone in any other major country in the world for healthcare. Now, that was before all of this happened. Since all of this happened, of course, we've seen tens of thousands of New Yorkers die. And part of the reason that happened is that we lack a coherent public healthcare system in this country and in this state. And a disproportionate number of the people who have died have lived in communities of color and in economically disadvantaged communities. On top of that, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers have lost their jobs and will continue to lose their jobs. And many of those people will lose their health insurance with it, just at the time when they need it most. We're in the middle of a pandemic and an economic crisis. And I don't need to tell you folks that there are major budget cuts coming to the state, to counties, to municipalities. That's going to put an enormous amount of pressure on every aspect of government, but specifically on healthcare and to Medicaid in particular. Now, there's no one single bill that's going to solve all of these problems, but there is one bill that will go a long way toward addressing all of them, and that is the New York Health Act. It's a bill that's been introduced in the New York State Assembly and Senate now more than 25 times. It's passed the state assembly already 4 times and is 1 vote shy of majority support in the Senate. The New York Health Act is a bill that would provide comprehensive health care to every resident of New York. So by comprehensive, I mean it covers specialty, it covers primary care, specialty care, mental health, reproductive health, long-term care, vision, dental, you name it. If any insurance out there covers it, the New York Health Act would cover it. And by also covering comprehensively, I mean there would be no premiums, no copays, and no deductibles. So in other words, no out-of-pocket costs for anyone in the state of New York. And starting with the amendments this year, that would not just include residents, but also people who work full-time in the state of New York and live elsewhere. So the incredible thing about all of this is that there have been multiple studies done on this bill, and by entities on the left, right, and the center, politically speaking, and all of them have concluded that it would not only save the state billions of dollars every year, it would save individual New Yorkers anywhere from 90 to 98% of them money compared to what they pay now. It would all be financed through the existing dollars that we get from the federal government for things like Medicare, Medicaid, and CHIP and other programs, and a payroll tax on employment, and also a non-payroll tax on investment. Very progressive. So for the low end of that scale, no, people wouldn't be paying literally anything into the system, up to $25,000 for most people, and starting this year, that would be up to $50,000 for retirees, anyone over the age of 65. And then from that point, people would pay into the system through a progressive tax. And in a time of, like I said, a public health crisis and an economic crisis, all of the things that you guys have been talking about tonight, the budget cuts that are coming, and the inability, even given our current system, to address the needs, healthcare and otherwise, this is actually a bill that could go a long way toward helping that, because one of the reasons, one of the key features of this bill is it would take the burden off of municipalities and counties for providing healthcare for their employees, which is a huge part of your budget, I know. And it would also eliminate portions of our tax bill, like, for example, the portion of our county budget that goes toward Medicaid. That's a unique feature of New York State. Most states don't do it. That would be eliminated under the New York Health Act and would be a huge tax relief for the residents of Putnam County. So, you know, from a moral standpoint, from an economic standpoint, from a practical standpoint, this is a bill worth getting behind. If you as an entity pass this resolution in support of it, you would become the 21st municipality in the state of New York to do so, including New York City and including a number of other municipalities in the Hudson Valley. And those resolutions go a long way to telling our state legislators, one of whom does support it, Sandy Galiff is a sponsor of this bill, but it tells them that this is a priority for the residents of Philipstown. We have circulated a petition that's up to more than 400 signees at this point in support of specifically this Philipstown resolution. And I've seen polling across the country that shows this is an extremely popular idea. And like I said, would not only give people much better health care, it would do it for less money. So that's my statement in support of it. If any of you have any questions about the details of the bill, I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. But thank you so much for allowing me to speak.
Thank you, Jeff. It was very articulate and informative. How did our state senator vote on that?
Well, first of all, it has never come up for a vote in the state Senate because it's never reached majority support. We're out of the 63 senators, we are now at 31 who are sponsors of the bill. So it's never been introduced for a vote. Sue Serino, as far as I know, does not support the bill, though.
Surprise. Are there any questions from the board? I've had a chance to review it over the past month. I'm glad to hear Jeff's statement on that. I feel more informed now and more comfortable with supporting it.
Thank you.
Okay. Go ahead, Judy.
I'm sorry. I reviewed it and I feel comfortable supporting it. I think we are in the midst of a public health crisis, but I do think that this bill has been a long time coming, and we have hundreds of residents that support it in Philipstown, and people now who are losing their jobs that will also lose their health insurance. So now it's more important than ever, I believe.
Thank you, Judy.
Jeff, thank you so much for the presentation. It really clears up a lot of things. I'm still just questioning, I don't know if we've ever done a resolution with all these blanks. I am supporting it, but if we had the actual numbers, it certainly would help. And I know you're not the guy to do that, but I'm just confused as to who would be somebody that could put the dollar figures actually into these blanks.
Yeah, Johnny, that's exactly my concern as well. It's always nice to say we're going to save money, but I like to see that as well. I mean, when you see things blank here, it's a little bit of question. And you also indicate there was over 1 million people in New York now that don't have health insurance. I mean, so if you add them to this proposal or get the health insurance. That's a lot of people to cover that don't have it today. And, funding wise is a little concern to me. I don't.
I don't be confused. I certainly support the bill. I would just like some more clarification in the, and I would even vote positive on it tonight. Just if we could just clarify these numbers. Even if we can't do it tonight, I would still support approving it and finding it out in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't able to fill those in. I think you guys are probably in a better position to fill in the numbers for Philipstown on that. I can certainly put you in touch with people who have passed resolutions. Like, for example, this resolution is actually based on the one that the Albany City Council or Common Council passed. I could put you in touch with the people who wrote that, the city council members, or people with the campaign who have worked through these numbers in more detail than I could give you. In terms of how to fill in those blanks. In terms of the additional people that will be covered, you're right. That's an additional expense that would be more people would be covered, and the people who are covered would be covered for more. They wouldn't be worrying whether they could afford to go to the doctor, and even if they have a high deductible or a high copay. So there would be greater utilization, and all of those studies that I cited earlier, show that people will use more healthcare naturally because they'll be able to afford it. But despite that, because of the massive savings you get under the bill, you would still spend less money. And those savings come specifically from the massive amount of administrative waste that's built into our current system. So private insurance companies spend about 30% of your premium dollars on administrative costs. That goes to executive salaries, it goes to advertising, it goes to, honestly, denying people care, coming up with reasons, doing the paperwork and finding reasons to deny people care. The closest thing that we have to single payer healthcare in this country is Medicare, and compared to that 30%, Medicare has about 2 to 3% administrative costs. So you get massive savings just there. You also get it from having a large pool of enrollees who can bargain for much better rates on pharmaceuticals and on medical devices. So, people have worked through these numbers in detail. One of the most recent of which, and the most comprehensive of which for New York, was done by the RAND Corporation, which is, not a lefty think tank. It's actually fairly conservative. And yes, they came to those conclusions that, you would have greater utilization, but because of those factors, you would actually save money. And that's for the state as a whole and for the vast majority of individuals.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bob and John raised a good point. I think I'd like to move on the resolution. We'll fill in the blanks with our local numbers. And then we can talk about that at our next workshop, which we're going to schedule momentarily. But I would like to move in support of the resolution as a general principle for all the reasons Jeff has stated, and it's not going to get better. Just right now, people are suffering. We do need to do something, and we can do it better. And the metrics from other countries that have these systems in place, by and large, do support the assertions made. So, Jeff, thank you. You have anything else before we go ahead?
That's it. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll get the local numbers. We'll put them we'll fill in the blanks. But as a general rule, it feels like to get this out the door as soon as we can, and potentially have an impact with getting, garnering that support that's needed in the Senate, and to get more people covered with healthcare is a worthy cause. So with that, I would ask for a motion supporting the resolution in support of the resolution for the New York State Health Act.
So moved.
Second?
I'll second.
All right. You want to do roll call on this? I think we should. It's important enough. Councilwoman Farrell?
Aye.
Councilwoman Flaherty?
Aye.
Councilman Leonard?
Aye.
Councilman Van Tassel?
I vote aye.
And I vote aye. The motion carries. Jeff, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard, before we move on, I know that Sheriff Langley is on the line, and Nancy has notified me that he would like to say something, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely, please, by all means.
Sheriff Langley, can you hear me?
I can hear you, and hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
You can.
Okay, perfect. Good evening.
Good evening, Sheriff.
Today I received a call from Linda Cooper from New York State Parks advising me that all trails and the campground will be open effective this weekend. She was very thankful to all the support that the Sheriff's Department has provided to New York State Parks, since they are very limited on staffing. Unbeknownst to me, until last week, after meeting with Major Drake from New York State Police Troop K, the New York State Parks falls under the jurisdiction of New York State Police now. As such, New York State Parks are no longer permitted to have their part-time park officers, as they have in the past, to help with enforcement. Hence, the shortcomings with having proper staffing in the area. So this is going to be the new norm for New York State Parks Police. They're very limited. They have about 5 park officers in this region. And now with the current events taking place, New York State Police are stretched pretty thin. Pretty much the brunt of dealing with the parks in the Putnam County area is going to fall upon the Putnam County Sheriff's Office. New York State DOT has advised Linda that they will put up more no parking signs. However, we know how well that works for most of the people that come up to use the trails. They'd rather pay the ticket and go hiking for the day than comply with the law. Anybody have any questions?
Yes, so are the parking lots gonna be open or no, then?
She told me that they are opening up everything. The beach area at the Canopus will be open to the campers. They will not be opening up the parking lot for people to park in there. That beach is going to be pretty much swim at your own risk. There is no lifeguard provided by New York State.
I had a phone conversation with Linda Cooper also, and yeah, she expressed the same thing to me. The thing she did say is, though, they won't be opening up Little Stony Point this weekend, which is good for Philipstown.
The Washburn parking lot will be closed still?
Washburn lot will not be open this weekend, according to what she told me. But the Fawnstock Park will be fully opened. They're not making any announcements. They're not putting it on the website. They're opening. So it'll be a
soft opening.
A soft opening, yeah.
I'm confused. They're opening the beach at Canopus, but not the parking lot.
Correct. The beach is open for the campers only.
Oh, so if you're walking from the campsites, but not, you can't just go and park at the beach. Gotcha. Okay, I was confused.
Correct.
Will Breakneck now be open as well, or?
Breakneck's going to be
She
open.
said Breakneck, Anthony's Nose. I mean, she told me all the trailheads, so there's a little mixed information here. I mean, it'd be nice if they leave Little Stony Point area closed, but that I'm sure that'll be opened up shortly.
Oh yeah, I mean, we anticipated that eventually things would open back up, and you know, we couldn't hope that they'd stay closed forever. There is going to be a webinar that I sent around to the board to comment on the future of parks locally and how they're going to manage the crowds, how they're going to manage the parking. I think it's being hosted by OSI. So I can forward that to you if you want, Sheriff.
Oh, absolutely. I'd rather have more information than I need than to have none at all. The one thing I would like to comment on, though, is that the staff that work at the parks, they were very diligent during all of this, stopping hikers from going up in the trails along 9D as best they could with the limited number of people they have. Even though the staff that they put down there had no enforcement authority that law enforcement has, they were still doing a good job of keeping everybody out of there and staying on top of it.
Yeah, I know they took a lot of flack
No.
And like you said, they're not
They did.
in the business of enforcement. They're,
No.
they're facilitators and interpreters, but it put them in a rough position. The state of New York needs to pull their act together with the parks in this corridor. It's just, you can't invite this many people without an overarching plan, which they do not have. And again,
I don't
falls to
understand.
the sheriff, and then it falls to local volunteers, or all our EMS volunteers. It falls to the villages to clean up the garbage, and it's a disaster. And it's a disaster that could get a lot worse if things keep going the way they're going. I'm not at all happy with the management of the parks right now, but that's the way it is. There's got to be a way to do crowd control better. From a common sense standpoint, it says if you have parking lots, when the parking lots get full, that's it. You don't have roadside parking in a corridor that the speed limit is 55 miles an hour, have people crossing back and forth like a video game. It just doesn't make any sense. So I think my opinion is that they should just have the parking areas. When the parking areas are full, people have to move on. You can't park on the roadsides, because the parking on the roadsides leads to walking in the roads. As everyone's seen, if you go up 90 on any weekend, there are people walking down the middle of the road. It's just, beyond the aggravation facet of it, it's also an incredible safety hazard. But thank you, Sheriff.
All right.
Thank you, Sheriff. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Thanks.
Next on the agenda is to schedule any workshops or meetings. Obviously, we already discussed the moving of the monthly town board meeting to July 9th. And there is a request to schedule a workshop to discuss the results of the community GHG emissions inventory, the emissions reduction targets, and next steps to develop a climate action plan. And the request was for either the 10th or the 17th of June.
Can we do that on the 17th? Is everybody all right with that?
Sure.
All right. So let's do that on the 17th, Tara.
Okay. Next on the agenda is the code enforcement monthly report. I just want to know I only received a report from the town. I didn't receive one from the village this month. It's for May 2020. The total fees collected were $37,496.44. There were 39 permits issued, 2 new 1 or 2 family dwellings. There were 6 additions, alterations, repairs to residential buildings. All other permits, including pools, sheds, decks, plumbing, HVAC, etc., 31. Number of certificates of occupancy, 17, and number of stop work orders issued was 4. And the code enforcement officer would like to remind everyone to take time when opening your pool to upgrade your safety features.
Good advice. See a lot of pools without fences, and that's just another accident waiting to happen.
I'd just like to thank Greg, even though, a lot of towns were closed down, Greg continued to do his job. And yes, you can see he brought in an awful lot of money. He's a busy guy this month.
Yeah, and obviously the
And
construction.
also watching over the construction of our town hall as well. So
Yeah,
he's a busy man.
yeah, it's been great. Greg is, the day we hired him was a good day. So,
Greg's a good man.
yeah, he is. I have one thing here, just an update on the Philipstown Food Assistance Program. To date, we've given out $175,000.
Wow.
Too bad. And we're going to continue down that path for a while. We have further commitments from people to support the community and the surrounding communities. As I said, we're in Newburgh, Beacon, Carmel, Putt Valley. Reached out to Peekskill 3 times, never got a return call. So their $10,000 went back up to Beacon. I don't know.
So Richard, is that including the pharmacy too? Is that included everything?
The pharmacy up.
Okay,
So
thank you.
we've given out, B&L Deli cards, Drug World, Food Town, Juanita's, Key Food. We're in Lodger over in Newburgh, Recap, Second Chance Food in Carmel, Wakefern, which is ShopRite, in Putt Valley because their food pantry had to close due to a death of a worker at the food pantry. Drug World, Nature's Pantry, Key Food. We've just been all over the place. So it's been a good experience. And everybody that we've purchased either cards or gift certificates from has thrown in extra. Every person, every organization. Cards were printed for free by Pronto Printer in town, which was a really nice gesture. So our thanks to them. But it's been really touching to see. And I still encourage people to reach out. If you need help, reach out to the town because we have healthcare experts. We have the food cards. We have Drug World cards. Don't go unnecessarily in need at a time like this. It's just one more thing to stress you out. So we're here for you. We're going to continue to be here for you. The other thing I wanted to mention, and I don't know if Nancy is still on the line, but the tenor in the county legislature has reached an all-time low when you have a legislative member telling another legislative member to shut up multiple times during a meeting. That is unacceptable. And Neil Sullivan should be ashamed of himself. He's brought shame to that legislative body. That's something I've never, ever heard in any meeting in the 19 years I've been an elected official. It's disgusting and reprehensible. He needs to apologize immediately, and he needs to conduct himself in a more professional manner. Nancy represents the town of Philipstown and parts of Putnam Valley, and she does that ably, and we appreciate her efforts. We certainly don't appreciate that from legislator Sullivan. So I would say he needs to apologize, and he needs to apologize to the entire legislative body for his conduct. I also want to mention, everyone is obviously aware of the death of George Floyd at this point. We stand with peaceful protesters throughout this country. This country was founded on protest. What happened is a tragedy. It's unbelievable to watch a video of someone being killed right before your eyes. It's shocking, and it's not something that's easy to watch. And that person was a father, a husband, and now he's dead, and he shouldn't be. So I know that the Putnam County sheriffs and our local law enforcement are in full support of peaceful protest, and they also conduct themselves as professionals at all times. Don't have that sort of thing going on in this county. So we support local law enforcement, but we certainly do support people's rights to stand up for their constitutional rights. So our heart, or my heart, goes out, and I know that many people's hearts go out to the Floyd family. He had a brother, he had a mother. It's an awful occurrence, and it certainly it's an amazing effect that the actions of 4 police officers could set off this sort of reaction around the entire world. But it's about time, and it certainly is a clarion call for change in America. It needs to happen. So that's my statement on that.
Thank you, Richard. And
Thank you.
And I appreciate the peaceful protesters in Philipstown and Putnam who've come out in memory of George Floyd and to end racism in our country. I think they really stepped up, and Sheriff Langley and Nancy were there at the county, and we appreciate their leadership and yours. Thank you.
And I certainly would say I'm hopeful for future generations. Young people in this country have conducted themselves really ably during this time, and they're to be admired. I mean, I have a lot of hope in the future generations that are coming to this country. They seem to get it, and it's time for that. So thank you.
Just one other thing I'd like to say. We had the countywide food drive a couple weeks ago. I'd like to thank everyone who donated food for that. Judy and I were there helping out a little bit. So Judy, thank you for your time there that day. So
Thank you, Bob.
it was quite a bit of food that was collected that day, a good size. So thank you everyone who contributed to that. I'd just like to say one other thank you to Mr. Leahy for doing the roll call for the veterans on Memorial Day. I appreciate that. It was very nice for him to do that. And thank you, Tara, for getting recorded, and Cecilia getting that and putting it up on the web and the YouTube. Thank you.
Yeah, that was great. It was great. I mean, that's an important day and an important reminder when you do the roll call of all the people locally and nationwide who sacrificed, the ultimate sacrifice. But it's amazing to see guys who were there. And, my Uncle Terry's one of them. So I am so proud of him when I see him. He's just an amazing individual and one of the warmest people you'll ever meet. Just a terrific guy. I know everybody around town's missing him.
Absolutely.
All right. Back to
Missing
you,
everyone
Tara.
else too.
Is there anything from the audience? Anybody else?
I don't see any hands up.
Right. So with that, we have vacancies at 0. Approval of vouchers.
A hand just popped up.
Oh, Henry just popped up. Okay.
All right, hold on. Unmute. Okay. Sir?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm trying to turn on my camera, but these things just pop up in front of it. So I am speaking mostly on behalf of Roy Rosenstein up here on East Mountain Road South. We're concerned that the highway department plans are so vague that no one knows, no one tells which roads are going to be paved. And there are rumors circulating, so you could just stop them, that East Mountain Road South is going to be paved on the dirt side from the corner of Chinkle's property to north, to East Mountain Road North. Before I go on, can anybody?
That's completely accurate. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So, and also no one mentioned a petition signed by 125 people that's opposing it, many of them residents on East Mountain Road South.
Are we in receipt of that petition?
Carl's received it this morning.
We have not seen it. That's why we did not mention it.
Okay, well, it would be nice when there's details about windows and color code in the building, but no details about which roads are going to be paved, which
that was discussed at our highway department budget meeting back in the fall, and it was laid out. Every road that was going to be paved, or sections of road that were going to be paved, were laid out in black and white in our highway budget, which was a public meeting.
And also a public hearing on that budget.
Well, that little spot was stopped from paving when the last section was paved, and we're just concerned over here that why would that ever happen? There's been always promises that there will be no more paving past a certain point, and it always goes on further. So assurances that the paving will stop at north are just little.
That statement isn't accurate. We approved that section of road to be paved about 2 years ago, Richard, I think it was, and then the season ran out, and they were going to do it in the springtime, and it just never happened. So it was back in the budget again this year.
All right, well, think about it and read the petition, and it's just, we're very concerned that this whole East Mountain Road South will be paved through to the next county, and it will become a through road, and people double their speed once the road is paved, and it doesn't correspond to what live is up here in the woods.
I certainly hear your concerns. one thing I would say is the probability of East Mountain South getting paved to the county line is extremely low, especially in light of the current budget that's coming up. This section is being paved because we have paved road at East Mountain Road North, and we have paved road at East Mountain Road South. It's essentially connecting a half a mile of pavement together. And I appreciate your concerns. I know I lived on East Mountain for 17 years. I've lived in the town my entire life. I know there's an entirely different aesthetic on the mountain, an entirely different lifestyle, if you will. So we'll take a look at the petition. But I don't want to speak for the whole board. We did talk about this a lot. We had 2 years to consider it. We've had a lot longer than 2 years to consider it. And it was a considered opinion of the board that we would go ahead and connect those two areas. But as far as other paving this year, that's all laid out in the budget. And as Councilman Van Tassel said, that was discussed at a public meeting at the budget in the fall, went to a public hearing. So, but I hear your concerns. I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that was the only other section of dirt road that was planned on being paved over the next this year, right? That's everything else was just repaving of existing roads already that are already paved, I thought.
That's correct.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Congratulations to all the Haldane and Garrison graduates.
Hello.
You there?
Oh, did someone speaking?
Yes, I'm speaking up. My name is Karen, and I'm asking if I'm unmuted.
Karen, you're not coming through clearly at all. You're completely broken up.
Yeah, you're all garbled up. Yeah, can't hear you.
Let me try them. Is this better?
Yep.
Oh.
That was
Okay,
better.
sorry about that.
There you go.
I'd like to address the same topic that Neat brought up. As somebody who grew up on East Mountain Road South, I was present in Town Hall when the highway supervisor promised that once he paved to the top of the big hill above Esselborn, that he would not pave any further.
Which
That
highway
promise has been
superintendent are
broken.
you referring to?
He was there in the late 1990s, and I'm sorry.
That highway superintendent is no longer in office.
I understand that, and people change, but I'm saying that over the decades, promises have been made by highway superintendents that the road will only be paved another short stretch, and I was there when there were promises that they would never connect East Mountain Road North with East Mountain Road South and pave it.
Who made that?
So
promise?
that highway supervisor, and I'm sorry, I'm unprepared to name him at the moment. I'm just drawing a blank, and I'm sure you have him in your records. Maybe Veet can help me out with my memory. I don't remember.
Superintendent Cherico.
Pardon me?
Was it Superintendent Cherico?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, you're going.
Okay,
pretty far.
Roy can help me with it. I can find out for sure, and I will follow up and send it to the town clerk for your records. But especially at this time when the budget is so tight, and as you mentioned, and there's been so much chaos with hikers and people coming up from the cities, and not having enough places to walk where it's wooded, where they're craving to go, where it's natural. This is the northern end of Fonsstock State Park. And I don't think that there should be a fast-moving traffic highway on the edge of it. So I just wanted that to go in the records.
All right, thank you. Thank you for
You're welcome. Thank you.
If I may
And
insert,
please do look at that petition, because there are a lot
Sure.
of people who care about it, who are local and also non-local, because people really cherish a diminishing number of beautiful dirt roads like we have in Philipstown.
Okay.
Karen made a very good point about the budget. You're talking about there's no money. You were talking about that you're way behind with paving. So maybe this section could be skipped right now, and money could be used for whatever else needs to be done to cover the gaps of the cuts that you've talked about?
Well, the budget is more complex than just paving. The one thing I would say is there is an A budget and a B budget. Highway is the B budget, that is town outside village. So these expenditures have been accounted for. The B budget is not the budget that's going to take the hit. The A budget is the budget that's going to take the hit. So as far as concerns about the money for this bit of paving, there isn't a high level of concern for that. We are in good shape in the highway budget. This circumstance has not, again, impacted the highway budget or the B budget to the extent that it will impact the A budget, which is still to be determined. So I hear what you're saying. I appreciate your concerns. And we'll take a look at the petition.
Thank you.
So besides the budget, you're at least 2 months behind with the paving projects. So something will end up unpaved again in November. So rather than potholy, very trafficked road that really needs fixing and resurfacing, this could wait.
I hear that. That's a valid point. I give you high marks for persistence. And again, I'd say we will take all of this under consideration, and we'll be rendering a decision on that. But again, that decision was voted on back in the fall. It's not as if this was unplanned or done under the cover of darkness. This was in a public meeting at a budget hearing through the highway department. So I'm just going to say in all likelihood, it's going to happen. I'm not, we can look at the petition and there may be something that sways all of us. I don't want to give you false hope on that front. All right, Tara, back to you.
Tara, you're muted.
Thank you, Bob. I would have went on, so thank you. As of right now, there are no vacancies, and next up is the approval of vouchers.
Okay, approval of vouchers, general.
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Highway,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Continental Village Park District,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Continental Village Water District,
So moved.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second.
Second.
All in favor?
Good night.